So good morning, everyone. A number of years ago, I've traveled now with my career for, gosh, coming up 2 decades now. And for at least 10 years straight, I was out of the country almost every week, going to different countries around Europe, especially when I was living over there, at least for a couple of days at a time. And it was busy, hard lifting, doing that type of travel perpetually. But in the early days of my career, I remember my first ever visit to France on my business assignments. And I want to share with you a challenge that I have experienced a lot. The culture that I grew up in, and this isn't necessarily English culture or British culture, it's just the culture that I was experiencing and kind of exposed to as a kid, was a handshaking culture. So if you were meeting someone for the first time, you'd stick your hand out, you'd shake their hand and introduce yourself. But as I started to travel around Europe, I noticed that different countries had different cultural expectations when it came to saying hello and goodbye. And in the UK, in many circles, and business circles at least, if you were meeting someone of the opposite sex, meeting people of the same sex, you'd shake hands, but maybe meeting someone of the opposite sex, you might shake their hand and kiss them once on the cheek. One of those light, kind of very formal kisses. Maybe the lips don't quite touch the cheek, but it's kind of a little bit of a peck on the cheek kind of thing. In most countries in Europe, it was different. It was one kiss on both cheeks. Yeah. In the Netherlands, though, they would do 3 kisses. 1, 2, 3. They do it that way. If you're in Scandinavia, they were less inclined to kiss and more comfortable with the handshakes. In Eastern Europe, when you went there, you wouldn't just give a man a handshake. They were very masculine. They would kind of bump shoulders and kind of smack you on the back. But they'd kind of lean and shake hands and kind of bump shoulders. And it was a very, very, and I had to kind of figure all this stuff out as I went, because I'd keep on going in for the handshake, and then a lady would come in to kiss me, and then we'd do this kind of push me, pull you kind of thing, which way, and it was always awkward. So on one this trip to France was interesting because I didn't quite know what to expect. How do I greet people and say goodbye and what have you? And I was at the end of a meeting, end of the meeting, and I sat down. I was kind of doing some coaching with some of the guests that were there, and I was thinking, okay, we're getting time to say goodbye. How do I do this? And I thought, because it suddenly dawned on me, wait a second, the French are very different when it comes to saying hello and goodbye, because I'm pretty sure, and it's one of these things where you want to be 100%, right? But I was pretty sure that the guys would also kiss the guys goodbye, right? And I was like, what do I do with this? So what did I do? I had established a rule recently, just prior to that, where if I was ever unsure, I would look to the host of the meeting, because I was going in there as a guest to these different events in different countries. I'd look to my host, who was a native of the country, and I would look to see what he's doing, and I'd copy it. So I looked to my good friend, who was the host of the event, to see what he was doing. And sure enough, he's stood in the corner of the room, chatting to another gentleman, and they finish their conversations, and I look to see what he's doing. So I'm going, whatever he does, I've got a copy. And I looked over to him, and they finished their conversations, and in a very French overt way, they kind of hugged each other and kissed each other on the cheek and said goodbye. I thought, that takes me well outside of my comfort zone. Right? I'm not sure how comfortable. Maybe this isn't. Maybe that was a one-off, and I start to suddenly rationalize it in my head. Right? Maybe there was a reason for that. Right? So I carry on talking with my group. But obviously I'm slightly distracted, right? Because I'm looking for these social cues. So I see that he goes over and he's talking to someone else. I'm like, okay, whatever he does this time's the one. Right? And I start watching it, and what does he do? They get to the end of their conversation, and sure enough, yeah, great seeing you, and they grab each other on the shoulders and they kiss each other on the cheek. I'm like, okay, again, this is it. I'm doing this, right? This this is what I've got to do. And so I braced myself, I prepared myself for this kind of farewell experience that I would have to, go through with these guys. So I was chatting to, there was like me and this big semicircle of middle-aged men that must have been, there must have been like 10 or 11 of them. And anyway, as fate would have it, at the end of our meeting, we concluded, and they all stood up and lined up in a row to say goodbye to me. They were just really grateful that, we'd had this time together, and they all lined up in this big line, one by one, waiting to say goodbye. And I thought, am I going to kiss all of them goodbye? Is this what's going on now? Wait a second. And so the first one approaches, he kind of steps forward to say goodbye. And it's the bizarrest thing I've ever heard myself say in my head, but I hesitated at the last minute. It was, like I said, I'm used to handshakes, right? And at the last minute I hesitated. And I thought, oh, maybe I shouldn't, right? And then in my mind, this sentence came to my head, which I never thought I'd say to myself ever in my life. But I said to myself, if he leans in, then I'll lean in, right? And I'll kiss him back, right? So that's kind of what I said in my mind. If he leans in, I'll lean in, and I'll follow this kind of tradition. And sure enough, as I step forward, he leans in. He puts his hand out, but he leans in. And I go, okay, this is what we're doing. I leaned in to kiss him on the cheek. And as I did, it's like everything suddenly went into slow motion, right? Because he kind of steps back as though to say, what was that? what were you doing? Right? And so I kind of step back and go, what just happened here? And then it was so uncomfortable, I didn't have the confidence to turn around and kiss the other cheek, which is the French cultural kind of thing to do, which meant I just kissed the guy on the cheek, and it's like kind of, what was that? It just became this really weird thing. And he kind of steps back, he's like, oh, and I'm like, oh, and we kind of have this moment, but then you can see this long line of 10 other guys going, okay, so I guess he wants to kiss us goodbye, right? And I'm going, no, only if it's kind of supposed to be. And it was just, it's hugely awkward. And it just seemed to drag on, and everyone's kind of like going, and they kind of lean in and kind of kiss me goodbye, or let me kiss them goodbye. It was just this incredibly most awkward, uncomfortable social moment of my life. As they all walk away, after my heart is literally pounding with anxiety and stress after saying goodbye to all these guys, that they all walk away, and I'm like, what just happened there? Because I'm looking over at my friend, and he's like, oh, goodbye, and they're embracing it, and they're enjoying it, and it's just a wonderful moment. But I've just had this terribly kind of just awkward, tense, uncomfortable moment with 10 guys all lined up in a row. And I was like, why did that happen to me? What's going on? And then I realized as they all walked away, they'd all come over from Poland. They were all Eastern European. That guy, when he leaned in, and I'm going, if he leans in, I lean in. He was leaning in to do that very macho handshake, bump shoulders, slap me on the back. And as he went to do that, I kissed him. I was like, oh, good grief. What was that all about? So that's what happened. Why do I share this story? Because what I was doing there was something that we all do all the time. If we're ever unsure of how to act in a social situation, what do? We look around to others for social cues so that we can conform, right? That's this phrase that we're all familiar with now, called social proof. We are looking for social proof. And that's what I was doing there. That term social proof, which is now a household term, right, all around the world, came into our vocabulary in 1984 by the author of a book called Influence, Science and Practice. His name was Robert Cialdini. But he kind of coined that phrase, social proof. It's also known as informational social influence. That's interesting, isn't it? It's informational social influence. But what we're looking for there is cues from others as to how we should act in order to get the right outcomes. Now, what relevance does this have to us? We have a pattern of behavior that we have established in Nikan that gets right to the heart of human nature's need for social proof, for informational social validation. We call it an ABC, an ABC, where we have someone that we're working with, a prospect or a potential customer, that is maybe looking for something a little extra, a little more, in order for us in order for us to make an informed decision, right? We want that extra bit of validation, of credibility, of expert opinion, whatever it might be. And social proof can come in many, many forms. We can get the expert other person, where they provide social proof. It can be the opinion of friends, also comes in the form of social proof, doesn't it? A happy user. You know, how many times do we go online and choose whether or not to buy something, if we're doing some online shopping, based on whether or not it has a 5-star rating or review? Yeah, we're getting those social cues, aren't we? That's an integral part of the Amazon shopping cart experience, right? Is it's got 5 stars. Likewise, when we go on to places like Amazon Prime or Netflix, and we're looking at something, we go, oh, this looks good, I might watch this. Wait a second, it's only got 2 stars. What do? We ditch it. Have you ever watched something that's got a 2-star review? Not unless you're feeling really risky, right? So we recognize the need for that social proof all the time. How do we build this into a meaningful moment in an ABC environment? We want to make sure, as a part of our social proof marketing strategies, when we're reaching out to others and kind of integrating ABCs into our activity, that this ABC will answer the very important questions, why? What are the questions why that we want answered when it comes to doing an ABC? Well, we want the expert, the A, to be able to answer, why would people want to do business with me? So when I've got a prospect coming onto my ABC, I want them to validate the company, but they also need to validate me as a business partner, because we all know that when someone joins the company, they're joining us much more than they're joining Nikan, correct? They're partnering with me. It's me that they get to do business with on a regular, consistent basis. Nikan provides the resources, tools, infrastructure, but it's the partnership, the confidence that they have in me, that will make them say yes. So we need to recognize the great importance of integrating ABCs into our business strategy for reaching out and approaching new people and enrolling and enlisting the engagement and activity of others in our business. So we want to be able to answer the question, why would they do business with me? We also want to answer the question, why would they give me referrals? If it's maybe a potential customer that we're working with here, why would they want to refer other people to me and share what we're talking about here? Why would they choose to attend one of our seminars? Because it's certainly part of the contacting process, isn't it? We don't have one contact, lead them to an ABC, and then expect them to join up right afterwards. We know on average it's 7 to 12 contacts before someone gets to a meaningful, committed yes. So in order to have that, there needs to be multiple touch points. If we're going to get past the banal, the average person that's out there building the business that will do it, contact once, twice, maybe 3 times at the most before they let go and walk away from a contact. That's what the average person does. But if we want to really push through that, we've got to have more reasons to connect. We've got a whole schedule of events on a weekly basis that allows people a reason to connect and explore, interrogate, press the flesh, so to speak, and find out, do some of their own research. And we've got monthly meetings, of course, with the Seiko Kai and the Master Day events as well, which all help us to build our business and give people a reason to connect. So why should they attend our meetings? Why should they show up to our seminars or events? Why would they want to book an appointment to follow up with us, to have another meeting, to have a further discussion. All of these questions that we're asking here can be answered by an expert, the A, on your behalf. So it's really, really important that we utilize this resource of integrating ABCs into our recruiting strategy. Okay, I want to share this great quote. And this is by John Jantsch, who's the author of the book, Duct Tape Marketing, the world's most useful small business marketing guide. But he says this, and I really like this. He said, trust is the currency of referrals, and few things build more trust than credibility. He said, in fact, your organization's growth depends on it. We need, in order to grow, we need to build a foundation of trust and credibility in our businesses. So if we want to build that trust and credibility, the way that we do that is through ABCs. So why am I talking about this particularly today? We all know what an ABC is. We all know why it works. We all know the value and benefit of this now. I want us to do more. There's the short answer. We need to do more. I want to get my calendar filled with requests to do ABCs. I'm opening up my calendar to each of you today in saying, if you want to build your business, one of the most effective ways to do that when you're recruiting and talking to other people is to utilize this method of ABCs. It builds trust and credibility. It supports you. It helps you be established as an expert, a reason for them to trust you. And we all see from our own shopping behavior and our own, the hierarchy of choice that we all exercise ourselves when it comes to even little things like deciding what to watch on TV, that we all lean towards social proof in helping us make decisions. It's become more and more the mainstream of decision-making processes in today's world than anything else. The validation of other people. We look for social proof. We look for that social proof all the time, and we utilize it every single day. So we certainly need to integrate that into our business building strategies here in NICAN as much as we possibly can. So my invitation to you today is not just to recognize that, yes, this is an important principle. It's a vital principle. It's a lifeblood principle, because this is how everyone around us is geared towards and programmed today to make decisions. We all rely on social proof all the time. So let's utilize that principle and that psychological necessity that we all rely on as herd creatures to follow the crowd and to do what everyone else is doing, and to recognize that if this is the norm, then this is what I'll do. Utilize that to our advantage. Recognize this, when we have Seiko Kai meetings and Master Day events, that this is a perfect opportunity to utilize social proof as a vehicle for helping people get to yes. When we can invite people, guests, into these meetings, and they see all of the user experience around them, giving NICAN 5-star ratings and reviews, it's going to make it so much easier for them to sit and listen and go, well, there's so many people here talking about how good this is. Maybe there's something in it. There's so many user experiences where we're getting testimonials shared left, right, and center. So many success stories that are being shared. So many positive reinforcement messages. Maybe there is some validation here to enjoy and to expect and to appreciate. And as a result, will that influence people's decisions? Yes, it will, because psychology kind of proves that point, right? So we want to recognize that ABCs can apply in one-on-one situations where you bring them to an expert other for some validation, some reinforcement, some strengthening to help them get to yes. But we can also use Seiko Kai and Master Days and these weekly events and seminars and meetings and classes and what have you that we have in the NICAN Connect schedule. We can also use these as effective ABCs. Yeah, I think that's really important to recognize the value there. This is what I want to propose something here And I want you to put some feedback in the chat, right? There's because I want this to be a collective decision versus just a Ben Woodward opinion where I'm going to do this. So I want to get some feedback from you here. I've been hosting these Tuesday calls now since 2015. Every Tuesday I've been doing these calls since the time that I was in the office when I first moved over to the States, first time around. I've been doing these calls same time every week. And I've covered, I think, everything from how to build your contact list, how to present, how to share your story, how to resolve concerns, how to deal with objections, how to extend invitations, how to build social presence and posture, what to present, when to present, you name it. I think I've covered a lot. And then a lot of kind of leadership psychology, business building, how to build online, offline. What I want to do is all of these are saved, all of these messages are saved in a YouTube library. What I'd like to do is start to catalog that a little bit so that you can have it as a ready reference and as a document, because I've kind of cataloged my favorites that I use and kind of share out, but share that for others so that they can go, okay, if I've got someone brand new that's coming into the business and we want to talk about building contact lists, you can watch this. If you want to learn about how to do it online or offline, you can watch this. If you want to talk about how to present, how to get started, you can do this. How to utilize the Need Can Connect, how to utilize the incentive programs, all of these different things. We've kind of got all of that stuff covered. But here's my question is, what I notice as a trend is everyone that's on the calls every Tuesday is pretty much the same people. Yeah, it's the same guys. So I'm talking to the same audience, which I love doing, right? But I want to look at what's really valuable for you. Is it really valuable to jump on a call every Tuesday when we've been on these calls every Tuesday for 7 years, right? Learning the same stuff. Sometimes I'm doing the same stuff twice or 3 times, just in case, right? Or as a good reminder. Would it be better time spent if I changed my schedule to, rather than being every Tuesday at this time, to be, for example, the first Tuesday of the month, so that we maintain that engagement and interaction, and whatever's coming out throughout the course of the month that becomes a relevant subject, I can discuss. And if you go, I need help with this, can you train on this subject? I will train on that subject and I will meet your demands and your needs there. But that we utilize the time otherwise throughout the week where we say, I'm going to call on Ben this week to do an ABC for me. For me, I would much rather spend my time speaking to your prospects and helping you get them into the business and say, okay, you've got someone, I want you to focus. If there isn't this time on the Tuesday morning, because we've got Dave Rolfe on Monday morning, Mike DiMuccio Monday evening, me Tuesday morning, we've got Barb Satterwhite, Linda Morris, Barb Bertucci, Sherry Danzig, all of these other calls throughout the week. And we've got the new podcast with Julie. We've got the seminar, the kickoff calls. We've got the Seiko Kai and the Master Days, all these events. Would it be more effective and a better use of your time if my call became a once a month call, and throughout the course of the month, I'm available to you to do ABCs and support you in speaking to your prospects and helping you bring them into the business? I have to say, and this is statistics, this isn't me trying to brag, but the ratio, the conversion rate when people bring people in to speak to me for an ABC, as it is really with most people when it comes to ABCs, right, is very high. You know, people that speak on an ABC where you make that connection when you've had some good positive contact and then you put them in front of an expert other, the conversion rate into them joining the business or taking action is really positive. It's really encouraging. So my invitation is this: shall we utilize social behavioral science to our advantage here and say, let's use ABCs more frequently and more effectively and utilize our time for training and education on a once a month basis, and that I catalog the library of calls that I've done, where I pick out some of the key messages that help someone get started, help them get going, help you build your business, give you the key direction that you need on core subjects, and make them more reachable and accessible. I can create a document, for example, and have all the links on a single document that provide you a ready tool. I can put that in WhatsApp and in the different group chats for your easy access and ready availability. So what are your thoughts? I'm getting some comments coming in, but please continue to share your thoughts. Jeannie's saying, I like that idea. Sherry's saying, this makes sense to me. Good to shake it up. I agree the best way to support my team is through three-way Zoom calls. Yoko's saying, yes, ABCs, focus, help everyone more. Plus you motivate us, optimism, so collaboration, that's good. Hattie Jane saying, yes, thank you, Ben. Lorraine saying, this is a good idea. Your method of contact number would help. Lynn is saying, I fully agree. We can have some structure to setting up ABC. Can we have some structure to setting up ABCs? Pam saying, I'll answer that question in just a sec, Lynn, just so you know. Pam saying, Ben, you're so self-centering to me. I know I can't make all Tuesdays, so having once a month, I'll make sure I can attend live, and the idea of how to market the promos would be good too. And someone on an iPhone saying, great idea. Okay, so it looks like we're getting some good feedback here. Gordon's raised his hand. Gordon, do you want to unmute and make a comment?
Yes, Ben. You had good points there, and I like that. I'm just starting out myself. It's been a few months that I've been listening, and again, I've been listening to you. I like listening because I really resonate and connect up with you. And one thing is I'm learning the computer, and that's another thing. I can't even send these messages here on that because I'm a newbie and stuff. So that's why I raised my hand. But you got some really good points. And that thing about your library to point things out, you know, which is important, is really good.
Yeah.
And I kind of find that's really good even for me, because again, for getting new prospects and that, I got something to kind of show them, and I'm also learning too. So
good.
That's why I just kind of wanted to put my input into it, and I think that's a good thing that you kind of categorize everything.
Okay, fantastic. I'll do that. So I appreciate the feedback. So I'm going to have two documents that I'm going to create, or one that I'll create, the other I'll ask Jeff Isom to create. So I'm going to create a document, or update my document, I should say, because I've got one that I use already. I will update it and circulate it. And I'll also include it, if you're signed up to the newsletter, in the newsletter as well as a link, so that you can have that. So be sure to be signed up to the newsletter in order to get that, so you can share that out. So I'll have that where I've got all of my favorite or messages, the ones where I think will be really helpful in providing instruction and training that you can go back to, that you can share with others, that you can utilize as training, or your own library for helping people get started. The other one that I'll have is, I've been doing for the last number of months now, the Entrepreneurs Being More call with Jeff Isom, and we've been very structured and chronological in starting out with how to create your vision of what you want to achieve and accomplish in NICAN, all the way through to building your contact list, how to increase your influence, how to make money in NICAN. We use income examples and behavioral examples, activity related, and then we go all the way through the process to helping someone join the business, helping them get started right, and then getting them moving into the business. So we really go through the whole journey in a really positive way. And all of these messages and classes are recorded and available for us to use as well as resources. So I will make sure that Jeff shares that out with everyone, because I think this will be really, really helpful. So, okay, I've got, Pam Barnes is saying, love those events with Jeff. Thank you for the time on those as well. Linda Morse is saying, love the suggestion, Ben. It's also a better use of your valuable time and demanding work schedule. So excellent. I've got Lynn, your hand is raised. You want to unmute? And
I do.
Yeah.
I have one of your PowerPoints that you did, I think 1920.
Mm-hmm.
I just rejoined lately. I love it. Could you just update it a little bit to current time? Do you know which one I'm talking about? It's
I don't.
you have it in the list of everything. Oh, it's downstairs in my desk.
Mhm.
Maybe I'll send that information. It's a PowerPoint. I think it's fabulous. For example, I already introduced the individual. I'm now at a stage they want to have a broader point of view. What's the business about? And I'm just talking about business.
Yeah.
And you did it. It's fabulous. I just like to see it more current. There's very little that you need to change.
Okay. If you are you in the WhatsApp group, Slim?
Yes,
Okay,
I'll send it.
Yeah, send me a note, because
Okay.
if I'm in there as well. So send me a note in WhatsApp as to which one it is, and I'll make sure it's updated and I'll repost it.
Yeah, because I think it's just perfect. It's
Yeah.
short enough, and just we need just a couple current things.
Okay, fantastic. Happy to do that.
Thank
Happy to do that. Okay, so what I'll do is that it's the first Tuesday of the month right now, right? So we kind of start off the schedule right. So I'm going to start this process now, effective immediately. Feedback has been unanimously positive in this direction, and we'll have our next Tuesday call on the first Tuesday of May. Okay, in between then, we will of course be available for ABCs. This is a simple process that I have. I always strive to say yes and be available. My schedule is busy, of course, but I don't want anyone to feel that should be a put off or a reason to say, oh, Ben's too busy. I'm not too busy. I always find a reason to say yes, okay? But what helps me, if you want to use me for an ABC, is to give me a little bit of notice. It's typically very hard for me if someone says, and I've had this happen over the last couple of weeks a number of times, where someone has messaged me and said, can you be free in 30 minutes for an ABC? Typically, no. Yeah, is the answer to that. I'm not sat at my desk waiting for the phone to ring. I'm out there hustling and making things happen. So what helps is if you message me and say, it's Tuesday today, on Thursday or Friday of this week, will you be available? Yeah. So the next one will be, oh, sorry. Yeah, I said the next one will be 1st of May, correct. The next call will be the first Tuesday in June. You're right. But give me a couple of days notice at least and say Thursday or Friday, which of these days is best for you? And I can come back and I can say, hey, Thursday afternoon would work great for me. Let's pick a time between these hours and we can go from there. Okay, so if you can give me a 2 or 3 days notice and give me a couple of days option, that can work, and then we can start to fine tune it and put something in the schedule. So that works really well for booking me in for ABCs. If it is, are you free now to jump on a quick call? Typically, it's going to be hard for me to say yes to that. Let's try to book it out and have a little bit of preparation for that. So thank you all very much. How do we reach out for you for booking an ABC? WhatsApp is a great way. There is that new app, of course, which I'm just still getting used to, which is Telegram. You can contact me on Telegram or WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, or text. I will put my number in the chat here so that everyone has it. There's my number. It's a US number. So copy and paste that. You can use that for Messenger, you can use that for WhatsApp and Telegram. Facebook Messenger works just as effectively as well. And of course, text as well. So utilize that number for those different platforms. And like I said, Facebook Messenger is great. So thank you all very much. Reach out, make the most of this. Let's utilize social proof and validation to get our businesses building and growing and turn our time into productive time that gets results. So thank you all very much. I'll speak to you live in person, first Tuesday of June. Yeah, I will get out those documents where I've got the library of calls. I'll put them into the WhatsApp chat, into Telegram, which is now becoming a main place for us to have our resources housed as well. And I'll also put it in our newsletter, which I send out every Friday. Okay, so thank you all very much, and we'll speak to you next month. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Ben.